Are you ready to stitch up the most wonderful and cozy cardigan? Well, if you join me for the Cable and Crossed Crochet Along, you can do it. I am so excited to be reintroducing the Cable and Crossed cardigan to you. The pattern originally released way back in 2021 as part of the first Autumn Exclusives event, and this was the original sample that was made. The cardigan's being re-released with an extra neckline option, so there's now two choices of the square neck and of course the V-neck. As always, all my garment patterns are written for sizes extra small up to 5XL, but the pattern is going to be available to view for free on the website, and of course there's going to be video tutorials for each step of the pattern. Now, this pattern has inset sleeves, which means that you don't get the same amount of bulk underneath the sleeves, so they're inset rather than raglan, because raglan come down from the nape of the neck down. These are shaped in at the shoulders, so you get a more slimline fit, but it's so much more comfortable to wear. If you haven't ever created this style of cardigan, there's no need to worry. There's always something new to learn with one of my crochet alongs, and this time we're focusing on shaping both the necklines for either option and shaping at the shoulders or underneath the armholes as well. Now, the stitches that are being used in this cardigan are the crossed double crochet and the cable stitch, hence the name of the Cable and Crossed cardigan. How inventive. The reason that I chose these stitches way back when is that it gives you a very slightly open fabric, but it keeps it warm because we're using a heavier weight yarn, and it gives you a very light texture, but it's just surface texture. There's no extra bulk added anywhere as there would be with bobble stitches or with puff stitches. So it just gives us a really nice texture that is easy to wear and very easy to create. So alongside the pattern being written in those 9 different sizes of extra small all the way up to 5XL, you also have options when it comes to the length that you make. So there are 3 different lengths to choose from a hip length, which kind of sits on your hip. There is the tunic length, which is in this photo here that I'll put in for you, and then you've got the almost like mid-thigh to knee length option, depending on which height you are, of course. If you want more information on the sizing, I'm going to be going through that in depth in my next video, so you can find out from your gauge swatch which size you need to make. Now, this pattern has been written using Serdar Jaw Spun. So this is an Aran weight yarn, but you can opt to make this cardigan in any weight yarn that you want. And in that video where we make our gauge swatch together, I'm going to be going through in more detail how you use your gauge to work out which size you need to make based on the yarn weight that you're using. Substituting yarn is quite a big topic, and I've touched upon it in some earlier videos that I'll pop in the top right hand corner for you here. In the next video, I'm going to be going into more detail about adjusting your yarn based on your gauge, so you adjust the size that you make. One of my testers had to do this. As I mentioned, this is an Aran weight yarn, but just because I say you need to use a 5.5mm hook, which is the size that I used, doesn't mean that you're going to achieve gauge with that hook size and that weight yarn. So I'm going to go into more detail about how you adjust your hook size, how you adjust for the yarn weight, and work out exactly what size you need to follow throughout the whole pattern to achieve the finished size that you want. Now, let me know in the comments if you've already picked out some yarn from your stash that you're going to be using. If you need to know the amounts of yarn you're going to need based on this Aran weight yarn, you can find those details on the event blog post, which I've linked in the description box below. So alongside this crochet along, for the first time, I've actually released a kit that contains all of the yarn you need to make your very own Cable and Crossed cardigan using these Serdar yarns. I've only selected 6 different colours, and this is Citrine Sunset that I'm wearing here. We have Setting Sun in this colour here. One of my testers used the Evening Aquamarine, and another of my testers, I gave her the Nordic Noir to use. So there are 2 other shades that have not been stitched up in this cardigan yet, and of course I might have to make one of them myself, and I think I might have to go for the Crystal Quartz. It has those lovely kind of grey beige tones in it, so it's almost more monotone in the fact that it's a bit more subtle than, say, these bright colours. But I must admit, this is just like sunshine on a plate, isn't it really? Obviously, when I was creating the kit, I have a wholesale account with Serdar and received a letter to inform that sadly, like many companies, they're having to increase the prices due to everything that's happening in the world. So I don't look very competitively priced. I've based it on the purchase price that I have to pay for this yarn, So if you find this yarn cheaper elsewhere, snap it up because it will be going up everywhere soon. The absolute killer for me has to be the shipping cost. I know it's just a factor of getting things to places, but it's just so frustrating that I've searched and searched for the lowest cost, and I don't want to skimp on the actual delivery. So if you purchase one of these kits, it will be there with you in time for the start of the crochet along. Now the pre-sale on these kits actually ends on the 12th of March, and there will be some available in my Etsy shop going forward, but probably not that many because I don't want to hold too much stock, although there are lots of things coming up where I need to be holding stock, but I'll tell you more about that in a different video. One of the most common issues when it comes to hosting crochet alongs is the pressure people feel to keep up with the scheduled release of all these different sections of the pattern. And I want to reassure you, as always, there is absolutely no rush to get this project done. I'm not going to be taking down the pattern. You're always going to be able to view the pattern on the website. And of course, the video tutorials will be here for you as well. My plan is to release a different section of the pattern each week that begins on the 29th of March, and that's going to be starting with our back panel so that we can get familiar with working the stitches. Of course, we would have tried them in our gauge swatch, but we're going to be working them in the pattern, and you can check your kind of finish size for that panel before you move on to making any other sections. The next section to release will then be the front panels that we will attach onto the back panel, of course. And after the front panels, you're going to need to make a decision about which neckline you're working, because all the panels are worked from bottom up. So the biggest bit is going to be choosing which neckline. It is entirely up to you whichever neckline you feel is going to be more flattering for you. I actually prefer the square neck, but that's because I have no neck and it makes me look like I have one. Whereas this is definitely a lot more casual and cozy for me. A lot of my cardigans have a V-neck, so it's nice to have the option to make something a little bit different. Again, there's no pressure for you choosing, but I would like to know in the comments if you've already made your decision, which neckline you're likely to be making. There's one little thing that I'm a little bit passionate about when it comes to making garments like these where they're worked in separate panels, and that is making sure that all your stitches have the right side facing when you join. So because there is shaping in this project, we need to make sure that we work a left side and a right side, whichever way is which, because we want the right side of all of our stitches facing when we're wearing it. So before we join, I'm going to go into detail with you how you recognise which is the right side, which is the wrong side, and of course you're going to be making a left panel and a right panel so that you can make sure all those stitches face the right way. Now, speaking of joining, yes, unfortunately, you are going to have to sew your cardigan up. You can use whichever preferred method you have, but I want to reassure you when it comes to joining, it's not that complicated, I promise. Because the rows are really obvious, you just need to make sure that you're matching your rows up as you join. And when it comes to sewing on those sleeves, it's actually marked by stitch count, so it makes it super easy. One of my testers was worried about doing her joining because she'd never made this style sleeve before, and she even messaged me to say, I can't believe how easy that was. I really want you to be able to complete your cardigan with absolute confidence, and I am here to help you every step and every stitch of the way. Make sure that you are subscribed to this channel and hit the notification bell so that you don't miss out on any of the pattern sections being released. You can even sign up to join my newsletter so that you get reminded each time a new pattern section releases. I'll pop that in the description box below for you, and it'd be great to have you on my newsletter because you get all my news and helpful tips to keep you inspired throughout the year. So finally, let me know in the comments, are you ready to get stitching? It's not going to be long until that swatch pattern is released so that I can help you confirm exactly which size you want to be making, and then we're going to be stitching the rest of the spring away making our cable and cross cardigans. As always, thank you so much for joining me. I will see you in the next video.